What's up, Mortgage Coach community? I am sitting down with Patrick Lee. Patrick, remind me what part of the country you're in. I know you're on the East Coast, but are you in Virginia?
Yes, sir. Northern Virginia. So I live in Leesburg, Virginia. My office is in Fairfax, but we primarily serve the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia.
Right on. Well,
Yeah.
you are just a great example of a modern local mortgage professional. You know, you use Mortgage Coach. You do all the right things. So I'm looking forward to just talking about how you're specifically how you're helping agents in today's market because I know it's pretty competitive everywhere. How competitive is it to get an offer accepted in your marketplace?
Oh man, it's been a battle. We do get out with multiple offers all the time. We've been up against, 6, 7 offers on a low end, and on a high end, as much as 20 something, 30 offers for a home purchase.
So let's just
So
say 6 to 24 offers is the commonplace for you.
yep, that's what we're
Nice.
seeing lately. It's been a little crazy.
Yeah, I just literally just got off the interview with Greg Anderson out of Seattle, and he's averaging six to like, what is it? No, 12 to 62 offers is the norm. And did a full hour playbook for him. I want to really do 20 minutes in this interview, and I want to come out with not only how are you helping buyers, but how are you helping agents.
Mhm.
So before we get into your playbook and your tactics, share. It sounds like you're going to do about 10 million in production this month for about 25 families served. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's around about what we're tracking so far. So finishing out this next few days.
So you're doing something right. If you're able to do 20-ish, over 20 loans in a given month, knowing that refis are half of what they were or less than last
Mhm,
year. Are
mhm.
you finding that to be the case for you where you're doing at least half the refis now than you were last year?
Yeah, actually less than half. It's probably dwindled down to 25% of the amount of refis that I did do in the past for last year. And right now I'm probably running 75% purchase, I would say.
75%
Yep.
purchase.
75 to 80%.
And then also purchases are a little harder this year than last year.
They are
How much harder do you think a purchase is this year versus last year?
5 times as hard.
5 times.
Five
Greg
times as
said,
hard.
Greg
Four or five
said 10
times as hard.
times is hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, he said they were 10 times harder this year, but
right.
5 times, that's a lot. That's a lot harder.
It is. Yeah, because you're kind of you're spinning your wheels sometimes, right? You're putting the best foot forward, but then you have one home seller that can only sell that one home to one person, and you have all these other people that are trying. So it's more important now to try to put your best foot forward and just gear up and mark off as many of the check boxes as possible to get our home buyers to win, along with the realtor.
Well, let's go through your process and also talk about how you're positioning that from an agent. Like the interview I just did with Craig was,
Hmm.
while he did talk about how he's recruiting agents, it was his playbook with the home buyer, and I definitely want to get your playbook from the home buyer, but I also want to hear what are you telling to agents and how are you positioning yourself as, hey, I'm not only a loan officer that can close a loan on time at great rates, etc., but I am the guy that's going to help your offers win.
Right.
What are you telling them, and how does that sound?
So, I mean, whenever I meet up with an agent or talk to an existing agent I'm working with, my goal is to, of course, be a side-by-side partner with them. The way that I treat it is if, hey, we're working for the same exact company, even though we're not, and we all have the same end goal in the end. So whether it's the support, the communication, the clarity on what a client can do to win an offer, we want to be able to, level ourselves and position ourselves that way. And also educating the consumer is also very important as well, because a first-time home buyer is going to have no clue on what to expect within a current market. So prepping them, making sure that they're engaged and knowing, okay, what it takes to put a strong offer in, that's been, helping me tremendously on the business front. And also supporting the agents whenever they need it as well on a quick time frame.
What percentage of your buyer leads are first time home buyers versus move up buyers?
I would say about 40 to 50% would be first time home buyers, and the other half would be move up
Okay,
clients.
so let's just say 50%.
Yeah.
And you said a couple words that I think are super important. And I think everybody who's achieved a certain level of success knows that communication is usually the biggest complaint realtors have with loan officers. And it's
Right.
the biggest differentiator. Like you want to
Mhm.
win a realtor, communication, communication, communication. But you mentioned something that I don't think every loan officer in America gets, that clarity and education. If
Yeah.
you can turn clarity and education into a competitive advantage, it's super important. And I've also heard a number of top producers tell me that while it's harder than ever to get to win an offer, it's easier than ever to recruit agents. Like recruiting agents, this is like a great year to do it. Are you finding that to be the case for you?
It is. It's true because if your system is working and you're able to have a higher percentage of your clients ratifying the contracts, other agents are going to want to know why. And for us over here, we teach the triangle of trust, whether it's a realtor we're working with or a client, we always try to get another engaged relationship. And we update the listing site constantly every single week. So all parties that we work with every week, we're updating them on a weekly basis. And the listing realtors, they love that. They don't see that much often. So when they do, a lot of times they end up reaching back out to us and saying, hey, do you mind working with us? I'm like, absolutely, 100%.
Love that.
Yeah.
So let's go through your playbook. So kind of give us the 1, 2, 3, what you're doing that you think is important and worth calling out in this conversation to help a buyer win, and how you're communicating that to agents.
Okay. I mean, first and foremost, very important to be able to connect with the client on a personal level. And the way that I talk to my clients, they understand that I have their back throughout the entire process. They got me on speed dial, on cell phone. If they need me, we're there to support them, educating them throughout the process. So that's first and foremost, just to make sure that that client, number one, is going to stick with you, because there's a lot of lenders that are out there. So when I'm investing the time in someone, I want to make sure that I have that loyalty, and also that same investment from them as well coming in. And then once we get the client in, prepping up is key. We're going to do all the normal stuff.
Time out. When you're connecting with the client to create that personal engagement,
Mhm.
become that speed dial friend, are you doing that on Zoom? Are you doing that with a phone call? Are you meeting with anybody? Could you just give me a high level on that?
Initially, it's usually a phone call.
Phone call. So
Um,
you're not
yep,
necessarily talking to everyone you talk to on Zoom. It's a phone call.
yep, on the
Okay.
initial stages at least.
Okay.
Um, and then after that, as I schedule the consultation appointment, that's usually preferably done by video,
So
if at all
Zoom.
possible. Yep,
Okay. So phone call, connect, prep. Now we're trying to drive them into a Zoom.
yep.
Okay. And how long does that meeting, that initial consultation take usually?
Man, it could be anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour at times, depending on the client. Sometimes the conversation just flows. So I never rush through speaking with a client. I think they would feel it, and they'll probably feel like they're a number. If that's the case, I may have time constrictions and indicate, hey, I got to be off at X time. But if I need to connect with you afterwards, I'm more than happy to reschedule or anything if need be.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So connect in personal, get them on speed dial, drive them into a Zoom, then what?
So we always update our referral partner right afterwards, thanking them for the referral up front. That's always going to be important. Um, I find that a lot of loan officers, sometimes they don't do that. And this is your referral source. So you always got to thank the referral source, number one, and then also letting them know what the results are of the initial conversation and review. So this way they understand exactly how we're going to be able to pivot offers in the near
Cool.
future.
What percentage of your families are getting a total cost analysis, in the purchase process?
100%.
And are you going through that in that Zoom? So when you had that Zoom meeting, are you going through the TCA?
Yep. Yeah. During the time when we're meeting on video, a lot of times we've already got their application in, we've checked out their credit, income, assets, the whole 9 yards, and we've narrowed down, what type of mortgage that I plan on putting them into, or recommending at least, and looking at options from there.
And how many options do you usually go through or share?
Usually three,
3 options.
primarily three, depending on a client situation.
Yeah, I hear, and I just got done interviewing Greg on his process to win, and he's like, I always provide 3 strategies with a video, and often it's interest rate options, because his thesis is everybody's shopping, whether they're
Correct.
shopping rates or they're shopping lenders. I want them to shop with me, and so
Right.
I want to give them options. That way they're shopping on my platform. Is that aligned with your process?
Yeah, absolutely. Because so many consumers are out there, they're seeing all kinds of rates. Some of it's kind of bait and switch out there that you see, or they're using the highest qualifications. So I always want to make sure that my clients are aware, hey, we do have other rate options. The difference is whether or not you're looking to do a buy down or not, and whether or not it's going to make sense. So I'm always showing them those additional options, also just to prevent people from shopping around so much.
Do you mind showing a TCA real quick? It, I'm going to ask you this question. We'll elaborate on it in a minute. Are you calling the listing agent pretty often?
Yes, every week
No,
on a weekly
but I'm talking
basis.
about the listing agent. When you've got a buyer and you're trying to help them win that deal, are you
Okay.
calling those listing agents?
Yes, 100% every single time. I try to go out of my way to do that because that has definitely earned us ratified contracts in the past. So
Yeah,
that's almost an automatic must these days, especially within this
I think
market.
so. And I'm still surprised how not often it happens. I've talked to people selling homes. We're saying only one lender called out of 20. So we know that this is not commonplace in the market. But mortgage coach community, if you're tuned into our YouTube channel, if you're turned into our Facebook group, and you're not calling every listing agent, um, you're not following the mortgage coach way. And if you need help on what to say to get the listing agent to call you back, listen to that Michelle Castle interview from last week. Listen to the interview I just did with Craig Anderson. The top mortgage coaches are talking to literally every listing agent. And when they can't get them on the phone, they're putting a text video out to them. So tell us what you're looking at here, and then we'll drill down on your agent call process.
Sure. Can you see my screen
I
on the
can.
MC
Yeah.
report?
By the
Okay,
way, it
perfect.
looks great. Branding. You've got your picture. You've got your company. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so this one here is it's a new client referral actually from a newer agent that I'm working with. And the guy was looking for options to try to save as much money on his mortgage payment. So this is a simple general purchase report that I do. This one right here would have basically been his par rate, understanding a clear, precise cash or close numbers here, figuring all that out. And they had quite a bit of assets. So for a couple like this, I went over two other different options, one with close to a half a point buy down and another one with over a point. And the way that I evaluate that with the clients is basically taking a look at how long it takes for them to recuperate the points buy down with how much you're going to save on each particular option. And then I basically leave it up to them. If they plan on living in a house at a certain period of time, we've discussed those goals. Hey, if you plan on living in this house forever, this is going to be your forever home, then it's not a bad idea to take a look at potentially purchasing your rate down and getting a lower payment savings over the life of the loan.
Love that. I am hearing a lot of mortgage coaches that are also making sure that every single pre-approval understands their options if there's an appraisal gap. So 2 questions for you. 1, are appraisal gaps happening often in your market? And 2, are you having the appraisal gap conversation with your pre-approvals?
Yeah, absolutely. So right up front, I have that conversation with the client just to prep them up. And we are running into maybe 30% of files right now, I would say, that typically has an appraisal gap that they're going to have to cover from what we've been seeing so far. Yeah. And in our market, it's a little crazy because people are escalating by 50 to 100,000,
Wow.
sometimes more, depending on the purchase price, but anywhere between 5 to 10% above what regular asking price is from what we've been seeing.
I'm hearing that in almost every market. I do want to call out and remind everybody we have this Agent Advantage playlist. This was a gift to you guys. So 1, you could actually forward one of these videos to an agent because the loan officers in these they're not selling. They're saying, hey, I'm Amber Kovark, mortgage coach. And then she's explaining the appraisal gap strategy with mortgage coach. And so, but more importantly, my recommendation is you watch these and you create your own version. Like I recommend every mortgage coach has a video where you're teaching and educating realtors on how your advice and you as a coach is different than others in the market. So check this one out. It's been the most viewed one. She does a nice job of just kind of opening it up. And then she explains an appraisal gap strategy. Now, in her market, she's doing a lot of single premium MI. That's a really common appraisal gap strategy. What are some of the common appraisal gap strategies in your marketplace?
For us, we do the MI factor as well, just to kind of figure out that part, reduce the payment for the client that way. But for the most part, a lot of the clients that I've been working with, they seem to have the assets that were needed for the appraisal gap. So naturally, they're just covering it and they're expecting it, to happen. So we're kind of setting that precedence up front. And then if it in the event if it does come in low, they're covering that gap. So it's either we typically have a client where they can't cover a gap at all, just because they don't have enough assets to do so. Or we have a client that's on the opposite side of the spectrum where they have all these liquid assets and it's not even a problem at all. That's what I've been bumping into in my market, at least.
Yeah, well, every
Yeah.
market's different. I think the takeaway for anyone on this call is make sure your clients are prepared and they're personalizing it, they're localizing it, like in your local market, how likely it is it. And in the TCA, I recommend you actually in your options, hey, here's without appraisal gap, here's with appraisal gap, and they understand the difference. So they're clear and they're confident. If they don't care about the cash to close, it's like, oh, no problem, great. If either they can't do it, single premium MI is nice because single premium is just a one-time hit. And often you can keep the payment the same and you can reduce the impact of the cash to close, where the single premium on a, could be less than a couple $1,000s and it could be 3,000 or 4,000, but it's usually a lot better on the bank account than just making up the gap. I mean, it's a lot better.
I mean, every now and then we would have clients where it's kind of borderline. So we always have that option where you can include the costs into the rate of the loan, and we'll basically would do a lender credit. That's another strategy that we've been able to come up with as well to help people purchase homes.
I've seen a lot of that, or just, hey, adding monthly MI and showing them. But the idea is clarity and confidence. Okay, so let's go through your process. You're connecting on a personal level in the call. I want to be in speed dial. I'm getting on Zoom for as long as it takes. I'm not rushing it. I'm using a total cost analysis for education, clarity, and confidence. You're always calling your referral partner afterwards. 100% of the time, you're calling the listing agent. Anything else as part of looks like we've got 5 key milestones. Anything else that's just part of your process to kill it?
Yeah, conversation with the realtor, just making sure they have a clarity on what's needed, because the big complaint that I hear is just the lack of communication and not being solid in what the client can actually do. Because when the clients are putting an offer in, there's so many variety of factors that we can look at that's going to help strengthen a strong point of purchasing, whether it's waiving the appraisal contingency, on the dollar amount side, or waiving financing contingency. If there is an appraisal gap on how much they got to cover, if it shows up, like how much can the client actually afford, right? What's the backup amounts on that? So whenever I pre-approve a client, my realtors know exactly what the client is capable of doing. So this way, as they put in a contract, they'll know exactly what to expect, and also trying to slim down turn times. I've seen a lot of lenders lately try to get deals closed in 2.5 or 3 weeks, which is always going to be strain on the operation side, but it's becoming more and more competitive lately too. So if we have a case like that, we're fully prepping that client as much as possible, getting all their docs, all their assets, everything in. So in the event, if we do need to close in 3 weeks, that we have all the ammunition to take care of that.
Love it. You're doing all the right things, brother. So I want to go into wrap up mode. Is there anything else as it pertains to educating realtors, educating buyers, and just things that you're doing that are helping you win in today's market?
Just letting them know where your heart is when it comes to it. Like my clients, my realtors know that I always have their back. They know that I'm going to be accessible. We're going to be there for them, and just trying to put your best foot forward every single time when it comes to putting in that offer, and think outside the box. Like, just to give you a quick example, I had a client where they were putting an offer in. I didn't know the listing agent. but I searched them up on Facebook. I found out that it was a friend of one of my coworkers that I've been working with for over 5 years. So I leveraged that with a phone call out to the friend. I remember it was a Sunday church day. She left a nice message for me. The guy never even called me back for 2 days in a row. It was an offer situation where we were up against, I think, 18 offers, if my memory's right. And guess what? We won it just because of that personal connection that my coworker had with this listing agent.
Really
So
good
just
point. I'm glad you
yeah,
called that out. Like, research the listing agent. Remember, every time you're helping a family get that house, it's a Super Bowl for that family. Like, you
yeah,
may, in your case, do 25 loans a month. Some loan officers do more. Some loan officers do, most loan officers do less. Uh, it's the Super Bowl for that family. And so do research on that listing agent, call that listing agent. If you're not getting return calls, listen to the interview I did with Michelle Castle and the interview I did with Greg Anderson. They're getting, every agent is calling them back, and scripting
awesome.
matters.
Yeah,
Make sure you reference the property. Don't just, hey, my name's Dave Savage with blank. Agent doesn't care.
right.
Like, I'm calling regarding listing X, address. Now my name, Matt, might have some context that matter. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate what a great leader you are of mortgage coach for the company you work with, Union Mortgage and Union Home Mortgage. I appreciate you being a leader in the mortgage coach community, and congrats on all your success, brother.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. Thank you for everything you do. I've learned a lot of ideas just from, learning from Mortgage Coach and also the social media side of that as well. And I just love the fact of how everyone's sharing ideas and helping each other out. So I'm actually going to take my next step to become a coach down the road, start going through training and just paying it forward, helping other people out.
Love it. With your company,
Yeah. Yep.
with
Yep.
Brian. Yeah, you guys
Yep.
have such a great coaching culture, and what a gift to anyone who gets the opportunity to coach with you. So great move on your part, brother. And
Thank you.
you'll find you will get better. I mean, like, being a coach, and learning something well enough to lead others is when you become your best. So congratulations on making that move.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks. Step by step. I'm always a student. So
Yeah.
happy to help anyone that I can.
Well, I think when I did the modern mortgage event last year, which we're going to do again this year, and I was looking for common threads among all the modern leaders on stage,
Mhm.
that was, I mean, I guess it's not a surprise, but literally every single one of them has had a coach, and every single one of them is a coach. So that is where peak performance comes from, brother.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. And
All
thanks for
right.
having me on, Dave. I appreciate it.
Take care, everybody. Give us a like, share this with your mortgage friends. And this call is a wrap.
All right, Dave. Enjoy your